My father was the minister at Grand Avenue Presbyterian Church, which was right across the street from Austin College, where Vernon taught. That's where I first saw this wonderful circle painting, color-filled, concentric circles. And then in 1974, my parents, we moved from Sherman to Dallas, and the painting came along with us. So that painting then, in a way, has been in my life or my family's life since early 70s. So it's always been just part of who we are. I was thinking about this. I kind of grew up around Vernon, even though I hadn't seen Vernon probably for 40 years until I moved back to Houston. I came to the chapel in 2015 and was hired as the executive director. But what I've been really, really fascinated with here at the Rothko Chapel is this idea that art is both an invitation for introspective work, going deep inside, and at the same time applying that insights and learning to social change and social transformation. The connection to Vernon's work and the particular painting we have at our house, which is very different than what he's known for, is sort of, it's really in the theme of Rothko in the sense that it is not filled with images. It's something that invites you to meditate upon, to think about. My family, my parents in particular, who have really lived with that painting for a little over 4 decades, would say many times it was a place they would just sit and just sort of sit in the presence of the artwork, sit in the presence of Vernon's painting. I mean, that is the Rothko Chapel. I mean, we're recording this today in this wonderful sanctuary amongst these 14 iconic paintings, and you're invited to sit. And you're invited not to be told what to do, but you're just invited to be, and then see what comes out of that moment in a way. So I think there is a correlation between what Rothko did here and what Vernon was exploring in the late 60s into the early 70s with those type of the circle painting that is in our presence at home. I sit with Vernon's work now as I do with his earlier work, and there's a lot going on, but I'm not always sure what I'm supposed to get, which tells me it's about me, right? It's not him telling you what you should necessarily summarize through the work. It's true here with the Rothko paintings. If there's one theme that runs through Mark Rothko's work, is this exploration of meaning. So early work, the engagement with mythology. I mean, he was a very intellectual person, very interested in how people thought. How did people articulate meaning? And I think that as this kind of progresses through his life, the questions become more profound. The questions don't necessarily produce answers, they produce more questions. And how do you invite people into that? It's okay to not always have the answer. It's okay to find the answer within yourself, not be told what the answer might be. And I think both Rothko and Vernon, if there's a theme that connects them, is part of its conversation. It's you now invited into this conversation with the artwork and ergo with the artist, right? I mean, because once you're in that painting world, you're also in conversation with the artist. The Rothko Chapel was really an effort to build a sanctuary where art was part of that invitation to come and just be, come and explore. So as you enter the chapel, you do see these holy texts and from a variety of traditions, and we rotate them out, we bring new ones in. But it's a symbol, but it's also a very practical way that you can begin that exploration by picking up a text, maybe a Jain text or a Jewish, the Torah or the Quran, a way that you start invited to maybe start that exploration. And I think Vernon does the same thing. The paintings are so evocative that you're immediately into a conversation. You've got to kind of take your time. And the other thing I would say is you've got to come back again. And I think that may be another connective tissue. is that it's not a one-off, as they, in kind of colloquial, it's just not a one-off. Your growth, your ability to imagine and really be moved, I think, comes with a practice of repetition. I see Vernon constantly playing with these pieces that may be rather abstract to most of us, but he also has a moment of clarity, it seems, that says, hey, it can go this way or it can go that way. And I'll just give you my thought on it for the moment, for that day, right? One of the things that I really find fascinating with his work is how he uses a periodic table. Embedded in that are elements that can be used for good, for construction, and there are elements that can be used for bad, evil, and destruction. And it's interesting that I had got to thinking about that angle and then seeing these images that are embedded in his work, because it's almost sometimes a commentary of like, don't you get it? Don't you understand that this is really serious? And yet we go on our kind of our merry way. So I think embedded in that is this really interesting play and constant communication, conversation on the social issues, and drawing us in to think about what we see in multiple ways. It's very easy to be dour, and it's very easy to lose the ability to laugh. And sometimes that's all we have left, is the ability to laugh and to sing and to find joy in the neighbor. He told me yesterday he likes to walk in his neighborhood, and he gives that little wave, the little thing that Texans like to do when they drive their trucks out in the country, to his neighbor. He says he's got one neighbor who has the greatest yard in the neighborhood, and he always stops to compliment the neighbor on his yard. And that's a part of a kindness. That's a part of a lightness of being that, in spite of digging into these really, really hard, complicated pieces of life, he still has the time for a smile and a wave, which says there's something deep down in him that is always looking out, that there's a new possibility ahead, in spite of the catastrophes that we might be living in the moment.